One of the biggest myths in the fitness world is that your training regimen should be significantly different based on what your goals are, what your gender is, how old you are. That's not true. There is a huge overlap between all forms of optimal training, meaning that almost everyone should be training in a very similar way. I can prescribe people a general training program, apply that to everyone, and then make small tweaks from there based on your level, your age, your goals, your gender. Most people should be training the same way. And so what I'm going to do today is give you the game plan of how you should be training, and then you can make small tweaks from there. So let's get right into it. Welcome to episode 20 of the Kayvman Show. This is going to wrap up the training block of the podcast. I'm going to put everything we've spoken about in training together and give you guys a RX of how you should be training or how you should be setting up your training program if you're looking for somewhere to start or you're looking to tweak what you're already doing. I'm going to give you a kind of one-size-fits-all approach to training, and you can just tweak it from there based on your preferences, goals, backgrounds, or whatever. We've spoken about how important muscle is for fat loss. We can tell you how most people should be training for optimal muscle gain, or at least muscle maintenance, to keep or build as much muscle on their frame as possible. And that will apply to both fat loss and muscle gain. The difference between fat loss and muscle gain is not going to be significant in terms of your training. It will be significant in terms of your calories. So you should be eating more for muscle gain, and there would be some small tweaks to your diet that will make a big difference in terms of how much muscle you should be trying to gain, but it's not as big as most people think. People think you have to train significantly different for fat loss as you should for muscle gain, and we've debunked that both in the nutrition section and in the training section. So again, there will not be massive changes between a fat loss goal and a muscle gain goal. There will not be significant changes whether you're old or young. Everybody needs muscle on their frame. Everybody needs to be doing strength training, right? For an old person, it's probably more important than a young person because the old person's frame is less likely to keep that muscle on. They have to be more cognizant of training to make sure that they have muscle on their frame, that their bones are nice and thick and healthy, and that they are able to move into old age. No significant difference between fat loss and muscle gain, no significant difference between age, old or young, and no significant difference between men and women. Women generally come to me and say, I don't want to be overly bulky. It's not going to happen. You don't have the hormones for it. Unless you're taking something or you're extremely rare. Generally speaking, women do not get bulky overnight. What happens with women is they tend to train the wrong muscles. So the significant shift between women's training and men's training should be a priority of training the lower body versus the upper body. Women generally have more ability to grow muscle in their lower body than their upper body, especially muscles like your traps. So like these muscles, upper chest. These muscles are hallmarks of masculinity, and for good reason. That's not just Hollywood. That's because male hormones and male androgen receptors grow these muscles preferentially. If you're a woman, avoid training certain muscles or keep an eye on them so they don't get too big. I wouldn't train your traps. If you're a man, do train your traps to some extent. Your upper chest as well, maybe keep an eye on that. You don't want to be, too bulky in that area. But generally speaking, because women don't have the hormones, you just don't really have to worry about it. Women who lift generally do not look overly bulky. You need to have a slightly higher body fat percentage if you want to look good as a woman than a man. Women should not be varying below 15% body fat, both for health and for aesthetics. But aside from that, long story short, women do not need to train significantly different. Some few small differences, but they should not be training significantly different. They still need muscle. They still need to strength train. They still don't need to do hours and hours of cardio. They still don't need to get too lean. So it's all the same kind of stuff as training as a man. Don't worry about it too much. Having said all that, how does anyone train? What is the way for a person to train, generally speaking? Okay, my RX would be this: lift weights 3 times a week and do high intensity cardio at least once a week. You could shift that to twice a week of lifting and twice a week of high intensity training. Generally speaking, you want to be around 3 times a week lifting and 1 time a week high intensity training. Unless your goal is not just a general, generally looking good and being healthy. If your goal is more athletic, like you want to be an athlete of some sort and you need to train high intensity cardio more because you want to expand your cardio abilities, then of course, or you want to play your sports more, of course, you're going to make tweaks to that. That would be a significant difference. But generally, I would be lifting 3 times a week and doing high intensity cardio, which includes sports. We've spoken about that before: boxing, MMA, sprint, whatever you need to do, basketball, once a week. Again, you can shift that a little based on your goals, but that's the starting point and then tweak from there. Keep your training sessions under an hour, okay? An hour or under. I would say an hour with a warm up and stretching at the end. I would add some mobility work into that hour. I wouldn't do an hour of lifting and then another hour of mobility work. So again, it's kind of less is more approach. Most people, after a very short period of time, just think more is better. No, more intensity, more challenge within that workout, not longer workouts. That's not going to build more muscle. Let me say this again. Training longer hours is not going to build more muscle. Training more intensity, adding more challenge to that workout smartly, based on your instincts, what does my body want to do more of? That is going to build more muscle. All right. So don't just keep plugging away and doing more and more hours of junk in the gym. Get in, go hard, and go home. Always. No matter how much muscle you have, how much muscle you want, that is the prescription. Making sure you're sleeping. We'll touch on sleep in the future, but prioritizing recovery. So those rest days. That's why you're only working out hard for 4 days per week. Why? Because you need recovery too. So you're going to have to prioritize your recovery. Muscle is built via recovery. And even if fat loss is your goal, you still need to build or maintain muscle. So you still need recovery. What you don't want to do is overtrain, trash your nervous system, immune system, metabolism, and then end up just a more tired version of what you otherwise would have ended up. If you want to keep your metabolism high, recovery is crucial. You need recovery for both fat loss and for muscle gain. So you still need recovery days. Okay. You still need rest days. You still need your sleep. Right? You still don't need to trash your system. Now, on the subject of cardio, what I would recommend is the 10K a day. Long, steady state cardio. Doesn't have to be on a treadmill. It could just be walking around life. Like, grab one of these bad boys, Apple Watch, Fitbit, or whatever. I'm not a big fan of using too much technology, but this is a very helpful one. And just make sure you're hitting your 10K a day. Make sure you are active, right? It's just activity. And if you want to speed up fat loss or break through a plateau, if you're trying to get super, super lean, maybe take it up to 15K, right? 15,000 steps a day, right? So you don't need to blast your system. Keep it low intensity, nice, chill, nice, easy. Just make sure you're doing more in terms of activities. For muscle gain, you want to make sure you're doing high intensity work and you're not doing too much of it, because if you do too much, your intensity drops. High quality, less is more approach to your lifting and high intensity cardio training. And then the opposite for your low intensity activity. I like to use the word activity because if I say low intensity cardio, people start turning it into jogging on a treadmill and it gets out of hand. It's a very slippery slope. I just say be active, move your body, park far away. You don't need to get right in front of wherever you're trying to go when you park. Walk. If you can do a 10-minute walk there and 10-minute walk back, great. I walk to work every day. I live 15 minutes away from my gym that I own. So I just walk there and back. That's half an hour cardio. Easy, right? Listen to a podcast. Get a dog. Walk your dog. Walk with your husband or wife. Take your kids for a stroll. Get out of the house and walk. That's my approach. Just simple activity. Take the stairs. Stand when you can stand. You don't need to sit on your ass all day. So just general activity. That's what leaner people do, right? And that's the best way to increase your energy expenditure, which is important. To lose body fat, you need to burn calories, but do it in a way that doesn't trash your nervous system and doesn't lower your metabolism, right? So very, very crucial that you have that kind of double lollipop approach. Make your high intensity work super, super intense, right? So you can build muscle and you can elevate your athletic abilities, and that will keep your metabolism nice and high. And then on the other end, just be active as much as you can, right? That is my approach to training. It's super simple. Just remember, less is more. Go hard and go home. Prioritize recovery. Be patient with it. Your body will change slowly. Be happy with 1/2 pound of fat loss a week. You know, you should be looking, if you're looking to lose fat, 1/2 pound, 1 pound, maximum 2 pounds of fat loss or weight loss a week is perfect. Same thing on the other end. If you're trying to gain muscle, don't think you're going to gain more than 10 pounds of muscle a year. Okay. If you're natural, don't think you're going to gain more than 10 pounds of muscle a year. It's not going to happen. So be super, super patient. Ultimately, try to remember this as a guiding star. You want to be as strong and as light as possible. If you see your scale is going down, perfect. Provided that your strength is at least the same, if not growing. If you're getting stronger and lighter, you're doing it perfect. You don't need to worry about body fat measurements or anything like that. You don't need to get all complex with it. You're doing it right. You want to have the highest strength to weight ratio possible. If you are gaining weight and gaining a huge amount of strength, then you're probably gaining at least mostly muscle, if that's your goal. If you're maintaining weight and you're gaining strength, that's also good. You want as much strength and as low weight as possible. If your body weight is growing, if that's your goal, then great. But if your body weight is growing and your strength is not, then you're just getting fatter. So make sure if you're trying to put on muscle that your body weight is increasing or staying the same, but your strength is increasing. You always want to be playing with these two parameters, strength to weight ratio. As much strength as possible, as low weight as possible, especially if it's a fat loss goal. Even for muscle gain, you probably don't need to gain that much weight. You don't need to gain 10, 20 pounds. A couple pounds and a lot of strength is perfect. I can't go too far into the details because I don't know specifically what your goal is. That is a general prescription. That's a general RX. Lift 3 times a week for an hour or less. As low as 15, 20 minutes per workout is fine. Everyone, even if you're looking for muscle gain, should be doing high intensity cardio once a week. Sprints on a treadmill will do it. Sled work, dragging the sled, battle ropes, medicine will. Why? Because your heart, by strengthening your heart and cardiovascular system, will allow your muscles to work harder and it will allow you to gain more muscle in the long term. This is all, bodybuilders throughout time have always had some type of high intensity interval training. It's good for your general health. Don't neglect your general health. And it will also help with your muscle gain. There are slight tweaks that you need to make. If you have any questions, just hit me up on Instagram, BeyondFitnessLA, or email me at beyondfitnessla@gmail.com, or get a hold of me and ask me, because there are going to be slight tweaks for each person. But this is a general RX that you can start with. Listen to your body, trust your instincts, and start playing with this stuff. That about wraps up the training protocol. We're going to move on to the mental and lifestyle protocol, all the other nitty-gritty little details that people don't really talk about or take for granted. Huge. You could argue that the mental game is more important than the physical game, because without the mental game, you don't even get out of bed. So we're going to touch on that in the next one. There's going to be 10 episodes on that. It's going to be fun stuff. So stay posted and hit me up with any questions. Let me know how it goes. Peace.